Good morning and welcome to TNN Live. We are honored to have with us this morning one of the great financial visionaries of our time, joining us via phone to discuss the financial crisis and the government bailout of Wall Street. Gordon Gecko is the famed investor and real estate mogul whose ability to earn consistent profits year in, year out have made him one of the wealthiest men in America. Mr. Gecko, thanks for meeting on such short notice.
Hey, nice to meet you. Hope you're intelligent.
This financial crisis has hit many Americans hard, and once again we are looking to our financial leaders to give us perspective on these historic times. So let's begin with the question on every American's mind this morning. What were some of the causes of the financial crisis, and what are the realities facing the American people on this very morning?
America has become a second-rate power. Its trade deficit and its fiscal deficit are at nightmare proportions. Now, in the days of the free market, when our country was a top industrial power, there was accountability to the stockholder.
Yes, I'd like to talk a bit more about this. How has corporate America changed over the past few years?
Today, management has no stake in the company.
Mr. Gecko, I can see you are certainly angry about the situation. Well, for many Americans, they feel helpless when it comes to the dealings of Wall Street. What advice, if any, can you give to the average American that owns stock in a company?
You own the company. That's right. You, the stockholder, and you are all being royally screwed over by these bureaucrats with their steak lunches, their hunting and fishing trips, their corporate jets and golden parachutes.
Switching gears a little now, you were outspoken against the bailout from the beginning. What would you have told the men and women of Congress to get them to vote against the bailout?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're not here to indulge in fantasy, but in political and economic reality.
Yes, understand.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
Well, Mr. Gecko, I'm going to have to disagree on that. I mean, look at the Fannie Mae's of the world and other firms that were consumed by greed. How has that made us better off?
Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed...
Well, we're going to have to disagree on that, Mr. Gecko. I just don't think you're correct.
Well, you're walking around blind without a cane, pal.
All things aside, let's keep this civil, please. Okay, moving on. You had originally gone on record saying that banks such as Lehman Brothers were sound and that they would withstand the crisis. And then you changed your stance. What caused you to change your mind?
I took another look at it and I changed my mind.
Okay. Well, what specifically changed? What made you think that the company was going to fall apart?
Because it's wreckable, all right?
I'm not sure our viewers will understand completely what you mean.
It's all about bucks, kid. The rest is conversation.
All right. Let's talk a bit more about the bailout. Many average Americans question the motives behind the government bailout. First, was the $800 billion enough?
It's not a question of enough, pal. It's a zero-sum game. Somebody wins, somebody loses. Money itself isn't lost or made. It's simply transferred from one perception to another, like magic.
Oh, well, why should the government be bailing out Wall Street? These people are already rich. They're likely to stay rich throughout this ordeal.
You got 90% of the American public out there with little or no net worth.
Well, Mr. Gecko, that may be true, but in a democracy...
Now, you're not naive enough to think we're living in a democracy, are you, buddy? It's the free market. And you're part of it.
Well, I thought we were. And I know that millions of Americans believe that.
The richest 1% of this country owns half our country's wealth. We make the rules, pal. The news, war, peace, famine, upheaval, the price of a paper clip.
We picked that rabbit out of the hat while everybody sits out there wondering how the hell we did it.
Well, very interesting stuff. Well, that is all the time we have today. Mr. Gecko, thanks as always for sharing your views.
Thank you, Alex. I'll talk at you.
Next up, we have Tila Tequila coming on to discuss her new book, How to Get Rich Without Having Any Talent. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.